In 2021, your cybersecurity and online privacy have never been more at risk. Don't worry, SolonTek is here to help. So sit back, relax. Wait, don't relax. Get pumped up. You're tuned in to Tea Time with SolonTek, your number one source for all things cybersecurity. Now, here's your host, Sarah Spencer.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Tea Time with SolonTek. I have Dr. Joe Perez here with me today. Hi, Dr. Joe Perez.
Good morning, Sarah. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing all right, ma'am. Thanks for asking. Appreciate the honor of being here with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming and giving us your time today. So you're one of the advisors to SolonTek, and you're also a board of directors. And then in your full-time job, you're a senior systems analyst at the Department of Human Health Services. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, absolutely, Sarah. Thank you for your kind words. So yeah, as Sarah says, I'm a senior systems analyst and team lead at the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. I have been in state government IT-related work for just about 30 years. I started off as an educator for 10 years before I morphed into IT work. The last 6 years of my career as an educator, I took on increasingly responsible roles of an IT nature to supplement my income, since teachers don't really make a whole lot of money. And I found great love for information technology. And when the opportunity came to start working at North Carolina State University, it was just a wonderful career move. So it kind of was the best possible blending of both technology and education, as part of my responsibilities included designing educational programs for the administrators and other faculty members for whom we were designing reporting schemes and that sort of thing. I rose up through the ranks over the next 25 years, ending up as a business intelligence specialist. And at that point, I was recruited by some phenomenal people over at Health and Human Services. They needed someone that had the educational background, that had the know-how of how to deal with people, how to take processes and manipulate them into something more efficient, understand things, break things down, and understand where data comes from, where it's going, its actionability. How to report on these things with the business intelligence and analytics initiatives that I had spearheaded over at State. They wanted that same kind of thing, so they pretty much made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I mean, best career move ever. More importantly, it was the best for my family as well, and so I've been there ever since the last 4 years or so, and it's opened up opportunities to speak at conferences, to share with folks my passion about actionable data and the importance of being able to draw insights from data, put it in the hands of decision makers rather than just some pretty graph, give them something that'll either make a decision, answer a question, or solve a problem. So that's what I want to do: increase efficiency, ensure that projects are on task and on time and on budget, if not under budget, and hopefully help people along the way know more about data and how they can use it to further their bottom line. So just loving life and enjoying the time that I have, and the wonderful opportunity that I have also to work with you at SolonTek as well. So that's me in a nutshell, I guess you might say.
Well, that's awesome. And I remember back 2 years ago when you and I bonded over data and making it human consumable and actionable, and breaking down these systems and the information that they throw out, and agreeing that Excel spreadsheets and manual processes for cybersecurity just was inefficient and prone to mistakes and prone to misses. So that's definitely what brought us together, along with the pandemic.
Yes, ma'am.
And your international speaking, remembering how to turn that same energy that you gave in person over Zoom or Teams. And I know we were just navigating that. So brings back fond memories.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Well, you've already described a typical day and year and stuff for you in your work and being an international speaker. Do you listen to music while you work?
That's a good question. My wife tends to do that a bit more than I do. It relaxes her. Music relaxes me as well. I love music. I'm all about music. I'm in my personal life, I am music director at the Spanish ministry of the church that my wife and I attend. I play the piano. I've written songs. I sing. So yeah, music plays a great deal into my life and what I do, and I see a lot of similarity between the cadence of music, the harmonies, the rhythms, the way that certain chord progressions, you go from this chord to this chord, and the things resolve, and it kind of informs a little bit of how I work with data and how I want things to resolve as well, and I want symmetry and so forth. But it sounds like I'm getting off the topic, but I'm not. My point in saying all that is, as much and as big of a part of my life that music is, I actually don't listen to it while I work because it distracts me because I'm thinking more about the music. I mean, it relaxes me, yeah, and I love it. And so I'll use it to relax, like when I'm working out at the gym or doing yard work or driving back and forth to wherever I'm going or coming from. And I love doing that. But while I'm working, I find that it distracts me too much because I love it so much. I want to think about the music more so than the task that I have at hand, in which case the folks at Health and Human Services probably wouldn't be too happy with me because I might not get as much work done. So for a guy that loves music as much as I do, no, I don't listen to music while I work. I do while I do these other things.
I tend to listen to more classical music or piano type music when I'm programming or doing data sanitation and I guess mundane tasks. But
right. Things
same.
that don't require yeah, and that's just it. There's music and there's music, right? There's the kind, they have the lyrics to it that you enjoy and you want to join in with, whatever. And then there's the instrumental, the classical, the soothing piano, violin, soft jazz even sometimes, or the classics, which I just absolutely love, Beethoven and Bach and all the so yeah, I find that very relaxing, and I suppose a more mundane task I could get used to appreciating it in that setting as well.
So for cybersecurity, we've seen a lot of cyber breaches in the news from large companies, large governments
Right.
here in the US, all the way down to small mom and pop shops. What is your take on what's going on right now, especially while we have advanced persistent threats targeting medical devices and hospitals? What do we need to do here in the US to close that gap and sort of get at the forefront of these issues?
That is an excellent question, Sarah. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm convinced that it's something that people need to pay more attention to. Um, I think that society in general and people in particular, we have this mentality of either entitlement, abandonment, or isolation, thinking that it's going to happen to somebody else, it's not going to happen to me, or I don't have to worry about it, it's somebody else's job, or I have some excuse, I don't need to be held accountable, somebody else will take care of it. I think those days are behind us. I think that the problem with with us in general, as a society, we individuals need to take personal ownership and responsibility for our own actions. I mean, I think that's good advice for life in general, rather than passing the buck and blaming somebody else. Now, the way that applies in cybersecurity is, as an individual, if I consider it the job of the CISO or the job of the person that has the CMMC certification or whatever, it's their job. It's the network girls or the network guys. They're the ones that handle this kind of thing. I don't have to worry about it. To me, that's a bunch of baloney. I mean, it's been said that the weakest a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and the weakest link is me, and I click on that link from, and not the link in the chain, but the link in the email from some prince in Abu Dhabi who says, I want you to go and spend the $40 million. Give me your bank account number. And I don't mean to make fun. Okay. But, it's like, or wherever the prince is, it could be a prince from Georgia or Alabama for that matter, whatever, who's making these promises that seem too good to be true. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Don't click on that. Yeah.
Well, now they're more sophisticated. Some of the breaches that I've seen from phishing have been a senior leadership who was just on their Wells Fargo account at work, and then 5 minutes later receives an email in their work email from Wells Fargo.
Right.
Wells Fargo.
Looks legit.
And
in quotes, right?
Yeah, but because I was just on Wells Fargo's website, it's top of mind, so I inadvertently click the link. How sophisticated these emails are becoming.
That's exactly right. Right. And that was a silly example I gave earlier. In days past, right, those things are obvious and people can tell. And so, you're not going to click on that link. Nobody's going to give you $40 billion for whatever. Now, yes, it could be something as simple as an email from your boss, who is at a conference and has said, I need you to check this spreadsheet for me. And there's some kind of malicious code embedded in the attachment. And, you don't know, is it really, you don't think to look at the header in your, in the email address to see, is it indeed from my boss? Yeah, he or she is at some conference or whatever. They really are there. But did they really send it? Is the email legit? And it looks legit, but since, again, you already had your mind on what was happening, you get distracted and don't think. So yeah, we are conditioned a little bit better to not click on the obvious prince from Abu Dhabi, to use the stupid example. But they're getting a lot smarter now. They're hiding their tracks a whole lot better. And the whole idea of vigilance, minding your surroundings, being aware of what's going on, exercising due diligence, all those things are important. But really, before you even think about that, regardless of the sophistication or simplicity of the attack, I have to put it in my head, get it through this thick skull here, that I am personally responsible. I have to take ownership for this and act accordingly and exercise the same care as if it were your very own money, right? As if it were your very own company, because in a way it is. Your company is breached. Your personal information could be in danger as well. So yeah, taking personal ownership, being aware of what's going on, and looking for signs that aren't so obvious. The thing you mentioned about Wells Fargo, the link, it's got the Wells Fargo logo. Hover over the link. What's the URL behind it? click-clack-crack.ru, or whatever, and that it's not wellsfargo.com, and you start scratching your head and thinking, that doesn't look quite right, and you just don't click on it. Get on the phone and call, verify, somebody that you can reach out to them, and they'll tell you, the legit ones, they'll reach out to you and say, we will never ask you for your password. You can always call us and ask us, if indeed that is legit. So yeah, phishing, vishing, schmishing, and whatever all the other acronym rhyming words that go with the phishing are true. The point is, be careful. keep your eyes open, keep your head on a swivel, and watch out, because these people are getting a whole, like you said, Sarah, you are absolutely right. They are getting so much more sophisticated now than ever.
So think before you click, even if it is from your boss and you want to give a immediate response and help your boss in need who has been kidnapped at the conference and needs you to send them money.
Right.
So that brings up another point. We hear a lot in the news that Biden is pushing for more cybersecurity standards and regulation. But when I go into companies, and this goes back as far as 2008, what I find is companies tend to throw away user awareness and training first. That's what they cut out of their budget. So do you think that we need another standard, or do you think we need more user awareness and training to teach users how to identify, because we know 65% of breaches happen from vishing and phishing, because that's how they initially enter the network. Should we put more effort in that area with our users and creating a culture of compliance, instead of overcomplicating and introducing another standard that nobody really understands how to implement except for the IT admins who we expect to fix everything, but they just don't have the experience.
Right. And even if they do have the experience, they may not have the bandwidth to handle, with everything that's coming at them from 15 different directions. That's an excellent question you bring up, Sarah, because I'm all for compliance. Okay. I'm all for guidelines. I'm all for setting boundaries, right? You have to have regulation. You have to have boundaries. You have to have the box into which because if you don't know what's expected of you, you're not going to know what direction to go into. But at the same time, the idea is educating people for the guidelines and the boundaries and the principles and the framework that's already in place is essential. Because if people don't know about it, you can throw all the regulations in the world you want, and it's not going to make any difference if people aren't aware of what's already on the books, of what's already expected of them. We don't necessarily need new regulation. Now, regardless of how one might feel about the current administration or some other administration, regardless of which political party is in power, government in general, and I work for the government, so pot kettle moment here, right? A government has a tendency to overreach, even well-intentioned. Let's just I'm just going to paint the best possible picture on it, regardless of who's in the White House or in power or whatever. Government tends to overreach. They mean well. I can say, because I'm working for the government, even with good intentions, the better approach is, as you said, educate the people rather than cutting out. The very first thing you cut out is going to be showing people what to do. That's crazy.
Right, because every year I take this cyber training or data protection training and I read all these policies, but fast forward 3 months, do I really know what those policies say? And do I know how to implement them in my everyday life? So bridging that gap, to me, seems like a more important effort than muddying the waters with another standard. We have standards.
Yes, ma'am. That's
we need to know how to
exactly
implement the standards.
Right.
And no offense, but I provided, and no offense to anybody out there who is a senior IT admin or network administrator, but I provided tier 4 support to those individuals. And you don't know what you don't know. And not everybody, no one knows everything, right?
Nope.
So
that's exactly right.
Even things that I've learned or I was an expert yesterday on, I may not be an expert today on, because everything in technology moves so fast. So who gives the IT admins and those people support and training? And sometimes I feel like we leave those individuals out because we think, oh,
they already know it.
Yeah, they know it. They should be teaching us those things. So,
right. And that is a true statement. They should, but at the same time, they need to be educated as well. what was it? Oh, I can't remember the kids' movie, Hercules, when one of the gargoyles, the ones that are that are made out of stone, and they come to life, for Quasimodo, and the one guy says, "You think I have a heart of stone?" You know, and yeah, do they have a heart of stone? No, I mean, they're humans just like we are, and they need support as well, and they can burn out more quickly, because you think about all the responsibility that's on their shoulders, and the weight of the entire company rests on the decisions that they make, the things that they click on, the standards they implement, and so forth. So yeah, they need the train. If anything, you're going to cut anything out, reduce some of the oversized bonuses for the people in the upper echelons. I mean, yeah, leaders need their compensation. I'm not going to get into that argument, but don't cut out the training, for pity's sakes. These people need to know what's going on. They have to be aware. And with all these different things that are changing, and the new threats looming on the horizon, new protocols, and so forth. This is new vulnerabilities being discovered in areas that we thought were secure, or whatever the case. They've got to be educated about this, because they're the ones on the front lines, and they need to know what they're doing in order to be able to do their job. So they
And we're so
deserve our
focused on deadlines and getting the product out and
right.
building the product, and it has to be fast because we have to
Yep.
beat our competition. But nobody talks about 90% planning and 10% execution. If we
Mhm.
took the time to document that system to system communication and how it actually works, and I mean, I'm dealing with that now with one customer. It's a lot of work. I mean, I'm
Yes, it
tempted to
is.
just like spin it up and like, here's your environment,
And
but
boom, go. That's it.
go and you'll be
Can't
happy.
do
And
that.
it's like, yeah, it's auto magic, right? It just happens. They don't know how it works.
I
But
like that. Auto magic. Yeah, that's what everybody thinks, but no, it's not the way it works.
and sometimes my customers, they get frustrated, or my clients,
Mhm.
because I'm like, no, we're going to document, we're going to plan,
Right.
because this gives us a baseline. Once we know what the systems to system communications are and where our gaps in security are, when something happens, we'll know a lot faster where we have those holes and where we need to focus our
Mhm.
attention. That impact analysis, what are our critical systems? Where do they live in the network? What type of reach do they have? Are they facing the internet?
Indeed.
And taking that time to plan. And that just brings me to another point with multi-factor authentication. Some of the standards say, unless you have a privileged account, you don't need multi-factor authentication. That may have been true when we were on prem and not in the cloud. But now when Outlook.com faces the internet, any bad actor could brute force or do a password spray to try to get your password. So I try
Exactly.
to educate clients that if it's facing the internet, whether it's a privileged account or not, it needs to have multi-factor authentication. And you'd be surprised how much pushback I get just from that simple, multi-factor authentication
Oh yeah, I don't want to
requirement.
have to do this. I don't want to have to,
Yeah.
it's worth it. It doesn't take you but a few seconds to pick this thing up and type in whatever it is you have to type in,
But
and
at
you're over and
SolonTek,
done
we
with.
made it easy, right? You just get a push notification and
Right.
you click
And
the
then you
button
say,
approve.
yes, I
I
approve it. Yeah,
approve.
you don't even have to. Exactly.
Enter a
You
number.
right. You prove that you are who you say you are.
Exactly.
And if you have whatever access that you might have in your company, and if you don't want to prove who you say you are, then you don't deserve to have access to your. Well, I might get shot for saying that, but hey, not by you, I know, but
Well,
you know,
let's just look at what these bad actors are after, right? They are
yep,
after who we know in many cases.
right.
Like, who
And
do you
even
have
somebody,
access to?
right, even if you don't have a privileged account, you do have information.
Yes.
And if you can shadow somebody or whatever, then you can gain whatever information they have, and that gets your foot in the door. And then you can go in a little deeper, and you can start spreading out and maybe get some
Island
name.
hopping.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
And then
And that's, yeah, you don't want that.
worst case scenario, you've used the same password on your work email that you used on your Wells Fargo
Uh-huh.
account. Now I have
Right.
access not only to your contacts and your information going back and forth, but I have access to your personal bank account. Small little things like this, I think, would go a long way in educating not only the average user, but the CISO and the IT
Yes.
administrators. And no offense, leadership, but I get more pushback from the executive leadership on these controls than I would from the average user. And we need a top-down approach.
Right.
I think that old saying of do as I say, not as I do, um, like how we taught our children back in the day, needs to be thrown out the window. You need to set an example
Amen
for
to
the
that.
people underneath you.
Yes, you do, because they see, they see you doing it, then they're going to be more prone to doing it, right? The impetus comes from the bottom up. The initiative comes from the top down. You always meet in the middle, and you can go forward. That's the way I look at
Absolutely.
it.
Well, tell me a time when you screwed up royally and what did you learn from it?
Just once.
Just
Oh
one,
man,
one
we
good
could be
example.
okay. Well, we could be here all day if we were talking about. Okay. Well, let's see. All right. There was once where I was supposed to enact an update on some records in an admission system, and I had failed to set one of the parameters. I can't even remember what the parameter was now. It was a setting that I had forgot to look at, and uh 8,700 applications were affected by my screw up. Thankfully, we were able to go back to the vendor and locate an individual who could help us, and the records were restored from backup. I had another copy on on my network space, so that we knew where to get it from, and the two were merged together, and the transaction was rolled back, and the thing that I was trying to process went through the second time, and it was done correctly. No permanent harm was done, but I I ended up working like 3 hours late that night because of something that would have taken me just 2 seconds to check that parameter. And had I checked that, it was, so thankfully it was not, there was no permanent damage done, but I was under some very close scrutiny for
Scrutiny.
for the next couple of weeks to make sure,
Well,
okay, did you hit that button? Did you hit that button? Yes, I hit that button. Yes, or set the parameter.
I see
And after
two
that, it was
really
fine.
good, I see two really good lessons in there. No matter how simple the task and how many times you've performed it, make sure
Mhm.
you have a recent backup, right? And of
Right.
course, die on your sword, take ownership. Yes,
Yeah.
I made that mistake, because the worst thing you could do is say, I didn't
Cover it
do
up.
it, I didn't change anything, I did everything right, because that's the fireable offense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It comes
I,
back later that you're the one that did it, and then you lied about it. I mean, even if I didn't have any moral compunction about that, I mean, the very first thing I did, I got on the phone to my boss and told him about it. The very next thing I did after that is got on the phone to the folks in the vendor and told them, hey, this is on me. I screwed up. That's the very first thing I did. And that's just it. Like you said, one thing is to make an error and make a stupid error, and the other thing is to try to cover it up and make it look like it's somebody else's fault or it happened just on a fluke when everything is
automagically.
audited. Yeah, automagically, right? Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
I'll be honest, I probably could have covered it up. I know of about 2 or 3 ways that I could have made it look like that it was some kind of glitch. And I'm not kidding you. I was tempted. I was tempted because I
well,
knew
kudos to
my
you.
boss wasn't. My boss wasn't the nicest guy in the world, and I won't say anything mean or anything, but he was a good boss. He was a good boss.
Well, kudos to you for taking ownership and learning from that experience. I used to tell my children, you're going to get in more trouble for lying to me than
Yes,
the offense itself. And I don't
that's
care what
exactly
the
right.
offense is, but the
Right.
offense could be horrible. But if you lie to me, the punishment's going to be compounded because we
Hmm.
need to be able to trust each other. So being
Yeah.
honest and open. And I thought this was important to bring up because there are so many junior admins that we're expecting great things from,
Mhm.
that may be tempted to cover up examples like this.
Right. Oh yeah, it never happened again. And the boss that I said was not that nice of a guy actually respected me a great deal for it, and things were better after that. After the time of scrutiny was over, and I could be trusted again. But the thing that caused them to trust me that much more quickly is that I took steps to correct it and didn't try to hide it or anything. And so yeah, I agree that that's the thing is set the example, take ownership, do what you got to do, and be more concerned about your own reputation and the reputation of the organization that you represent, more so than trying to save face. You'll get a lot further in the long run. In the short run, it's gonna stink, and it sucked that I had to stay 3 hours.
Builds
I didn't
character.
get. Yeah. I didn't get home till after 9 o'clock that night, and I was beat, dog tired. But
But the
I
companies
learned
I
from it.
think the companies I think of uh, having good experiences doing business with, I'll just name drop Microsoft being one of them.
Hmm.
Microsoft does a lot of things and their stuff doesn't always work the way you expect it to, or they roll it out too soon. But one thing I've noticed about Microsoft is they die on their sword, they're transparent, and they take ownership.
That's true.
It's
That's
one of the
true.
reasons why I loved working at Cisco, is because we built this culture of transparency. But then when we look at the SolarWinds breach and you have a senior leadership saying, hey, it was the intern who set the password to welcome 123. It was actually SolarWinds 123. We know that intern did not set that password to SolarWinds 123. We know that was a common password used throughout their development environment because it is in a lot of companies. Had that leadership just took ownership and said, um, it's my fault. We didn't build a culture of compliance. We didn't take our development environment serious. We didn't do
Yep.
enough to protect our source code. I think that would have gone a long way to keeping
Absolutely.
their customers. I mean, I ended our contract with SolarWinds just based on that one statement. Um, so die
Right.
on your
Because if you
sword.
can't, that's right. If you can't trust somebody to be open and honest and upfront with you on something like this, how do you know what else they might be lying to you about?
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you one last question
Okay.
before we end. What do you do when you need a reset and where do you go? Because um, I'm a sprinter, so I'll sprint and then I'll veg. So I could go for a 2 week sprint where I'm working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. But at some point, my brain just says no more. And I need to like veg on Netflix or go to the beach. What do you do when you find yourself getting burnt out in this industry?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, um, well, when I get to the point where I'm I'm doing this, I'm doing this number, right? You know, uh, I'll get up and take, well, in the short term, I'll get up, take a walk, get out in the fresh air, breathe, and get my bearings about me. If I need to take a short power nap or something, yeah, that's kind of helps in the short term. Other times when I've gone a long time and it's just been boom, boom, day after day after day after day after day, and I get to the point where enough is enough, and you see the bags under my eyes, that they're not so bad today, but um, that's when I'll just talk to my boss, and my boss is an incredibly man. I love that man. He's amazing. Um, and I'll say, Victor, I need some mental health time, say, do what you got to do. Cause he knows that when I come back, I'm, going to come back at 120%, all, firing on all cylinders, and ensuring that, that I give my very, very best, and hit the ground running when I come back. And so when I do break away, I just like to lay down. And again, getting back to the music we were talking about, I have some nice music in the background. Put my heavy weighted iPads on, and I don't mean this kind of iPad, the right, the pads for your eyes. I say, like a sleep mask, and just lay down and do nothing for a few minutes. I get my rest. I'll get up and maybe do some yard work, hit the gym, come back refreshed, have tacos with my wife, and watch Star Trek or something.
And that's so important, right? Because when you take that mental health break, when you're feeling overwhelmed or you're just going, you do tend to come back at 120% versus
Absolutely.
trying to push through it. And,
right.
I'm an advocate for the 4-day weekend, or the 4-day work week, I'm sorry, and the 3-day weekend. Right. And I know we can't get there right now at SolonTek because we just don't have the resources, but it would be awesome to get to that point, because when I come back from a 3-day weekend, I can get 3 times amount done the following week than I could if I just would have powered through. So I think that's important for people to learn from too, is if you are feeling burnt out, take a mental health day, a mental health couple of days, because you're going to be more useful to your employer going back after you've sort of refreshed your batteries.
Absolutely. And it helps that beforehand, you have already built up the reputation of knowing that when it counts, when it comes down to it, you can be counted on.
Absolutely.
You are a trustworthy person. You have proven your worth. You have put in the time. You have made the effort.
Absolutely.
You have met the expectations. You have exceeded. Expectations, I think, are something that should be exceeded, not just met. And if I have that mentality, and I've already proven myself over however many years, then the next time when you come back to the boss and say, hey, I need a mental health break, then they'll know, well, you know what? You've already proven yourself. You have built up that reputation. Then, you have shown that you can be trusted.
That is such a good point, because too often I see people just not showing up for things that they are obligated to, or show up when it counts. And they're always, yelling mental health day. So a good example of that was the summer when I was moving and selling my house and then trying to finish school. And then I thought, I really need just, a couple days off to refresh. But then I was up till 4 a.m, a week after that, TechNet was coming and all of these things piled up on me. So I pushed through it. So there is a time when you have to push through that exhaustion and that I can't take another step, because you do have to build that reputation of being reliable and trustworthy, and people need to be able to count on you. So that's a very awesome point, not to just be a baby and call mental health day for every little, sometimes that builds character. Push through it when you don't feel like it. Oftentimes that's when you get the breakthrough, or that's when you get the new client or something you wouldn't expect, because you did push through those moments.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. No glory without gory, right?
Exactly.
Whatever. No pain, no gain.
Pain, no
silly,
gain.
Right? Those silly things. It's not so silly, but I mean, we think of it as silly because we hear it so much, we get jaded by it. But it is true. No pain, no gain. You build the reputation first. then come the rewards later.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it has just been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, Joe, and your insight is invaluable. Thank you so much for being part of this tea time today. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you so much, Sarah.